Welcome to the Bucher and Friends podcast. Here is your host.
Let's send it over to Rick Bucher.
Rick Bucher.
Welcome to another episode of Bucher and Friends, part of the United WeCast Network. I'm Rick Bucher. You can see me on FS1, you can read me on Bleacher Report, and you can follow me on Twitter at Rick Bucher. Have a special treat for you this week. I did a story on Blake Griffin and the transition that he made from going from LA to Detroit, and some of the misconceptions that arose around him being part of the paparazzi tabloid fodder, if you will, whether it was dating Kendall Jenner or the many productions that he was involved in as a comedian, as a stand-up comedian, as a producer, and obviously had a few movie roles as well. And so caught up with Blake and we talked about what he missed and what he didn't miss and his adjustment to Detroit. I think you're going to be surprised by some of the things that he said. Obviously, if you read the story, you've gotten a good piece of that. But I thought it would also be interesting for you to hear our conversation with Blake. I couldn't get everything that we talked about in the story, so this is an opportunity. And again, there was so much that we went over that we're going to break this up into two podcasts as well. So here is part one of my conversations with Blake. I know you've probably answered this before, but where were you when you first heard of the trade?
When I heard that the trade was official, or when I first heard the rumors, I had just woken up. We'd played New Orleans Sunday night, I think it was, and we got back to LA late. I'd woken up a little late and I was going in to work out, and a friend of mine called me and was like, "Hey, just a heads up, I heard Detroit's trying to trade for you." And so I called my agent, Sam. I was like, "Have you heard?" He was like, "I haven't heard anything. Let me call Lawrence Frank." Call Lawrence Frank. He said he didn't pick up. He's like, no, he normally picks up my call every time, no matter what he's doing. So I was like, all right, whatever. I was supposed to go in the lift, so I had to go in the lift that day. I called Lawrence. He didn't pick up. Hadn't called me back yet, so I had breakfast, that whole thing, was going in the lift. Called him again, still didn't pick up. So I went in the lift, and it was like Jason Powell, our trainer, who'd been there since I got drafted. And he was like, it wasn't weird, but you could tell he knew something that he felt weird about. And so after I finished my lift, I was like, let me just go up to Lawrence and talk to him. And so I go up there, and his assistant was like, oh, he's in a meeting. And I said, well, tell him I need to talk to him. So he goes in there, he comes back out. Lawrence comes out. You know how Lawrence Frank is. He's like, always has something to say. Yeah. Never at a loss for words. He looked at me. He looked up and saw me. He's just like he'd seen a ghost, And so I walked in to his office, and I'm like, he's like, what's going on? I was like, you tell me. And he was like, you're with a player of your caliber, teams are gonna. I was like, Lawrence, this is 9 years for me. I just want to know. I want to hear from you. Yeah. I don't want to hear from other people. You know what I mean? That's all. I get that this is a business. And he's like, you'll be my first call or something like that. And so I was like, all right, thanks. So I leave. And as soon as I leave, I get another call from the same friend, hey, they're trying to finalize details. I'm like, all right. I was just in his office. I go pick up my kids, and we're driving back up to my house, and I get another call. I'm 10 minutes from home, hey, it's on the 1 yard line. They're looking at your medicals. And I get home, and I'm jumping on the trampoline with my son and my daughter. We're playing this game that we play. And I hear my phone, so I pick it up, and he's like, hey, it's done. And I'm like, all right, thanks.
Who said it was done?
My buddy who I'd been talking to this whole time. Okay.
And how's he connected? I mean, how
just happened to know people here. Okay. So I don't want to get anybody. Yeah. And so I just kind of put my phone. Yeah, I kind of put my phone up, and I finished. I'm just playing the game, and I'm kind of thinking, and but I'm also trying to this is during the season I don't get a lot of especially afternoons with my kids, and it's normally bedtime or whatever it is. So I was trying to put all my attention to that and worry about all that later, once they we're taking a nap or something. Yeah. And then my phone just starts blowing up. I see it on Twitter, I see Woj just tweeted like the Pistons and Clippers, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, all right, well, Lawrence finally told him, because they had kept it quiet. And then I see another tweet from Woj, like probably maybe 5 minutes later, that like says the deal's done. Then maybe 5-10 minutes after that, I get a call from Lawrence Frank, and then 10 minutes after that, Doc. But by that time, I was fully with my kids, so I didn't pick up any of those calls. Sam had called me. He was like, "Hey, Lawrence, I guess, is trying to get a hold of you." I was like, "Oh, because I had told him as soon as it was done. I told Sam." And so he called me back like maybe 30 minutes later. He's like, "Lawrence is trying to get a hold of you." I was like, "Not right now. It's done. Like whatever."
Yeah.
And that was the last. That was really it for like the whole trade part.
So how, when it first hit you, this is where I'm going.
When it was
I'm changing
done?
teams. Yeah, I'm going to Detroit. Like, what was your reaction or thought?
I think more of my reaction was just like how it went down. That's like what stuck with me the most. Like I said this to people at the time, and I still say this today. People believe me now. They didn't believe me at the time. Like I was, looking forward to like this start and doing something different in Detroit. Like I think it was time. But it was just like how it went down. Like after all that, like all my time there, and after everything, from the previous summer, I just saw it going differently if that had happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Out of respect for you, out of what you knew about the franchise?
I don't even know if I call it like respect, but like I took my meeting. I had 2 other meetings lined up and possibly a third, and they asked me to like make a decision quickly so that I could be in other free agent meetings. I went to the Danilo Gallinari meeting. I'd left my family on July 4th weekend to go meet with Danilo Gallinari. I'd spent, time on the phone with different guys, trying to convince them, hey,
sure.
come to this place, which is all part of it. And I did that gladly.
Yep. Because,
I wanted to help our team. So I just saw it going differently.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I truly like, if they had called me or called my agent and said, "Hey, like, listen, like, this isn't like we're gonna move some things around," I would have been. I get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's
just the way that it went down. It just like obviously left a bad taste in my mouth.
Sure. That's a whole other. That's a whole other subject in terms of how teams approach this. I've never understood that because, and I don't know that the Clippers are necessarily alone in that.
Right.
But there's this fear of engaging or just acknowledging with players.
Right.
I mean, it's a business. Everybody gets to a point where you understand it, right?
Right.
But there seems to be this great fear of actually allowing guys to know that something's going on.
Yeah.
And I think there's a way to do it where it doesn't interfere with your business. Right?
No.
I think their greatest fear is if it doesn't happen, now this guy's going to be, pissed off or whatever it's going to be, right?
I think the majority of guys have too much pride to stop playing or mail it in. Like if it's the type of guy that's going to mail it in, he was going to mail it in anyway.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like I remember talking to DeAndre after I was actually here, and I was talking to him because it was like right before we played them, because he almost got traded. He didn't like practice with the team for like 3 days or something. They said they had a trade. He knew about it, like whatever it was, and then it fell through at the last second. And he still showed up and played, and finished out the year well, and then made his decision this summer. So like that's my whole thing is like, even if a guy does know, like he's not going to stop playing because now he's hurting himself.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just my opinion on it. But I see. You understand. Like you don't want to like tell a guy like, hey, we're trading you, and then it doesn't happen, and then you're stuck with
Yeah.
But I think there's better ways to go about it.
I agree. So how long did it take you to get acclimated here?
Because it didn't happen last year at all.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Not at all. I like got settled for as settled as I could be, but it didn't feel like home until I came back for this season. And then once, like after this season, a month being here.
Yeah.
And then once the season started, like that's kind of when I felt more like an embrace from like everybody,
From the organization?
No, not the organization.
Community?
The organization right away. I would say like the community. People were very like, people were great within the organization, like helping me transition and feel, at home. But, as far as the community, I think there was fans that were really great early on. But, I heard a lot of stuff this summer about how I was, going to be their Josh Smith 2.0 or, it was a bad trade. I heard all that stuff this summer because like last season didn't really do a whole lot here to like to be able to kind of like show my worth, I guess.
Sure.
And then like once the season started, once games started being played, and once I kind of was able to show who I am as a player and as a person, I think it kind of like I felt like more of an embrace.
What about for you, just from a living standpoint, in kind of finding your rhythm, finding your way around? Like
that happened very quickly. I mean, again, last year it was weird. I was in a condo here for like 3 weeks, and then I basically kind of Airbnb'd a house in Birmingham, like a mile from here.
Okay.
So I was like, I knew this area a little bit, and I knew like how to get to downtown and how to get to practice. But now, after like being here for like a month, I knew like my way around my house and like how to get to the airport. I don't have to like.
You bought a place?
No, I rented a place just because I didn't know, with the practice league going downtown.
Right.
I think I'm going to move closer.
Right.
So I wanted to rent for a year and see how I liked it. But as far as getting settled and feeling at home here, it was so easy because it feels so much like Oklahoma. Just in like the people, you live 20 miles from somewhere, it takes you 20 minutes to get 20 miles. It's not like LA. It takes you five miles, takes you 30 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm used to like this type of flow, this type of feel, and it just makes me feel more at home,
Yeah. I mean, I grew up in Cincinnati, and I lived in the Bay Area, and I've lived in the Bay Area for like 20 some years. And it's the same thing whether if I come here or, anywhere in the Midwest, I like these places. A lot of people go like, where, everybody sees me here and they go, what are you doing in Detroit? You know what? I'm good with this.
Yeah. That was the same thing. I mean, people were like, oh my gosh, like what was that like going from? I'm like, because it's funny because the people were saying the same thing when I got drafted. I mean, I got drafted to LA from Oklahoma. People were like, where are you from? I'd be like, Oklahoma. They're like, oh wow, like how is it here? And I'm just like, it's like it's a city, it's different. But like this is like what home, and this is like what me for 19 years of my life was. It's all I knew until I went to LA, and still even then I come back home and feel at home. Anytime I needed to like get away and really like recharge, it would be home. You know what I mean? I don't think people saw that. People just saw LA.
Well, that for sure, and I mean that, as I said, like you fascinate me because you went to LA, and like in my mind, you took advantage of everything that LA had to offer in the various things that you could do. Whether it's the Funny or Die, the creative stuff you did, the commercials, all of that. I mean, you had a very LA-like vibe. At least from the outside, from the exterior.
Right, from the outside, yeah.
And so that's where I thought, okay, if that was attractive and you enjoyed doing all that, what's it going to be like to abandon that, and if you're abandoning it, going to Detroit? So set me straight in terms of...
So, I don't know. I mean, I think there's like, when I started doing, you start doing... what commercial, like I had like a couple endorsement deals I got right out of the shoot, and I would do like a commercial here and there, and I just kind of like it was just part of like what my contractual obligation, I guess. It wasn't like I was seeking out things to be able to do commercials and things like that. And
they were coming your way.
Yeah.
And you were doing them. I mean, because the Kia, like the whole Kia thing, the whole Kia campaign was so visible. It's
that was like everywhere.
So big that.
Yeah, I mean that, and I didn't realize the impact that I was going to have when I even signed that deal. Like I really didn't. Like I knew I had to shoot like 4 commercials or whatever it was, but I didn't know You played so much on national TV, every game, you know what I mean, all the time. All I knew is I didn't want to go make my one stipulation was like, I don't want to do like a regular car commercial where I'm like the force that drives, you know, like that whole thing. I was like, I want to be able to like kind of like turn it on its head and you know, I want to lean into the fact that I am doing a Kia commercial, you know what I mean? And that I loved. So I've just always had a love for like, you know, comedy and things that I think are funny.
Yeah. Well, and where did that come from? Like have you always been funny, or have you always been intrigued by that? Or
I've just always been like you know, always trying to make my family laugh, always trying to make my friends laugh. And that's another thing I think sometimes people see it, sometimes people don't. It depends on who you are and how much you're around me and like, you know, how close we are. But, and then also, you know, my dad like loves comedy. So sitting there and watching, you know, old TV shows, whether it's old Saturday Night Live or stand up or, you know, sitcoms, whatever it is. And then just as I got older, developing that on my own and watching I grew up like in the Comedy Central kind of era, I guess, of kids is what some like comedians call it, where that was like the only comedy like available. Couldn't like stream anything. Yep. So I grew up watching like a bunch of stand up on that, and then any funny show that came on, you know, I was like my show. That's like what I was naturally like attracted to. So that's just like why any commercial that I do, my preference is always to do something fun, because that's what I'm going to have fun doing. I don't enjoy like going into a commercial where I'm sitting there like, you know, reading, unless it's like something important. Right.
Where you have a very kind of dry, understated.
Yeah.
You know, the first thing I've never forgotten the. I don't know if you put it on social media. I don't know where it was born, but when you tweeted out something about I knew 2 chains when he had 1 chain.
Oh, yeah.
To me, that it captures the Blake Griffin sense of humor. It's kind of just like a little bang.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just kind of. I think I've always just had a very like dry, sarcastic sense of humor, and now it's just like my favorite is when you can like say something to somebody and they don't get it. You know what I mean? Or you say something and they do get it and you don't expect them to get it. You know what I mean? Like that's like really that's what's like really funny to me now. You know, it's like as your sense of humor changes. But I have an appreciation for a lot of different types of comedy. Yeah. That's just my personal style, I guess.
Is there anything other than, I mean, is comedy like the number one kind of thing outside of basketball that intrigues you the most? Or is there, you strike me as being...
Oh, no, there's like a lot of things that intrigue me. I just think that comedy is like how I chose to go about, you know, like I said, endorsement deals.
Yeah, it's the most visible
like
part of your outside
interests. No, there's a lot of things that intrigue me.
Have you ever, like, I wonder about this too, because it seems like, and it's going to sound like a weird question, you're good at a lot of things. If you were just good at basketball, it almost feels like things would be a lot simpler, or people would have a more clear sense of you, right? Yeah. But you got a lot of things going on, and I think that's part of what I think confuses people in terms of who is he.
I agree with that 100%. I think that always comes from like doing and trying everything as a kid. You know, my dad like encouraged my brother and I to like play whatever sport we wanted. You know, he always thought like baseball would help your hand-eye coordination, so that would help you in basketball. You know, soccer, footwork. So we played and we did everything. I played the drums. My brother played the guitar. We swam. We did track stuff. Not just sport. We played golf. Like we did so much stuff that I think I just have like a wide fundamental like skill set in different areas. You know, not necessarily skills like. But I just am comfortable doing a lot of different things because I've always done a lot of different things.
My parents did kind of the same thing. I had to play piano.
Right.
My mom was big on, and I'm first generation American. Both my parents are German. Yeah. Only person in my family to go to college.
Oh, really?
And I ended up going to an Ivy League school.
Right.
I talk about going way outside of your comfort zone. But I look at it now, and I've tried to do the same thing with my kids. Like just expose them as much as possible and let them pick what it is that
I'm like very, very thankful for that. Just because it's helped me not only relate to a lot of different people, like I could sit down and talk to, whoever, and I'm not like that talkative of a person. I just feel like there's always something that I experience that I have, or somebody that I know, or whatever it is. But also my parents stressing, education, both my parents being teachers, was like part of it too, because we always had to, not necessarily have certain grades, but like we always had to like be learning and moving forward, and that was huge for me too, because, it wasn't always like I had to memorize like all these things, but I had to be able to apply information. And I think that's like a much bigger thing, especially that you're seeing now, where kids don't, it's not, people realize that like knowing the mitochondria of a cell, you know what I mean? Like what the job of the mitochondria, you know what I mean? Like things like that. Like,
It's like what's the purpose of it, rather than just...
Exactly. So that's like something I'm very, very thankful for, that my parents, like, both my brother and I kind of got from them.
Yeah. Was there as much drama around you in LA as it felt watching?
No, I don't. I think I've always said this, and like, some teammates might not agree. I think most would. Like, it kind of depends. I always see like guys will leave and they'll be like, "Oh man." It never felt like I didn't like dread coming to practice. I plane rides, bus rides. Like we had fun. Like we'd sit at the card table, play cards, laugh, and play music, and talk the entire time. You know what I mean? The locker room wasn't a drag. It was only like when we lost, that weight just kind of like, and each time you lose in a different manner, just like more outside. And then I got to the point where like any little thing became like a bigger thing. But no, I never felt like there was like all this trauma. I mean, besides like things here and there, I think everything just gets blown out of proportion. It's like the DeAndre Mavericks thing.
Yeah.
Like we just went down there to like, he wanted to be pitched again. We went and pitched him again, and he was like, "Okay, I'm going to do it." And we're like, "All right, well, we're going to wait till you can sign."
Midnight,
he was like perfect. Like he wanted to do that because he wanted to go on vacation.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, we're all hanging out. And then we see all this stuff on social media, and we're like, oh, like I loved it. I thought it was hilarious. So like I was like, I'm stepping into this even more so than it obviously is. So obviously part of that is my fault.
Right.
But at the same time, I think like if you know me, you see like my tweets and you see like what I'm talking about doing the whole thing, and you're like, oh, he's just like with everybody.
Right.
So yeah, I guess part of it is my fault, but also it's just like how crazy things seem from the outside and how normal they are on the inside is a very real thing, especially today with social media,
Playing at another level, there's a real mental manipulating the game aspect to what you're doing that I don't know that I ever appreciated, and I don't even know if necessarily that you were able to fully utilize that, particularly after Chris came to LA, just because it was a different role. So I wonder, are you able to kind of put your, not just your physical, but your mental imprint on games here now in a way that, I don't know, that you could before? Was I missing it, or is it different?
I think it's different. The way I always kind of told it, and I still feel this way today, is like when we got CP, like, everybody tried to make a thing out of like whose team is it, and like I don't think he cared about that, and I didn't care about that. Like, and I don't think like that many guys do. Maybe some, but I don't think as many guys care about that as people try to make it seem. Like today, if somebody was like, "This is Andre Drummond's team," I don't care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't affect me at all. Like we both know I appreciate what he does. I think he appreciates what I do. So that's never going to be a thing that we ever have to like think about. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think we both kind of hype each other up and feed off each other like that. And I think it was the same thing in LA. But when you get like one of the best playmakers of all time, and a great basketball mind and a passer, leader, whatever it is, like you're not going to like take that away from him. Mm-hmm. So like, I always like, it was, and I was fine with like, we're going how you take us, you know what I mean? How you see the game. And like, especially now, like knowing what I know now, like I see how important that was. And it's not that I like ever, like I probably that up, but it wasn't intentionally. It was just because I didn't know better. Like there's times where I tell Andre something and I'm like, hey, like when we do this. And he's like, you can tell he's never thought of it before. You know what I mean? And I was in that position for him. I was in that same position he was with Chris. You know what I mean? And I think that, like you said, the magnifying glass of LA and people like looking at that and like trying to make something of that turned it into what it was. So I say all that to say that, no, I didn't necessarily have the same impact or like mental leadership, I guess, from that standpoint, but it also like wasn't as warranted or needed with that group because you have Jamal Crawford, you have JJ Redick, you have DJ who's, you know, his own like more defensive mindset mind. You know, early before that, Caron Butler, Grant Hill, Chauncey Billups, you know what I mean? We had like all these guys who know how to play basketball and are very, very good at playing their role and also just understanding like what's next. Yeah. That I never needed to do that.
Right.
And I feel more of a need now.
Gotcha.
You know, being here.
Yeah, for sure. I feel as if, I don't know, it felt like you became a show pony in LA.
Yeah.
You know?
I had to do what I was like good at.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I wasn't going to like shy away from like, I had to like attack the rim.
Yeah.
I didn't have as many things to go to.
Yeah.
But I think I started to develop that. You know, I had like that year. I think the year that Chris got hurt, you know, in January, like people kind of started giving me a little bit of credit for being a basketball player, and not just an athlete. But again, that was out of necessity. So then when you bring CP back in, who's better at all those things, you let him do that, because that's what he has to do. So. You know, I think people always thought it was like me struggling to like try to do that and like not let him do that or whatever it was. Yeah. But it was just figuring out the flow. Like, I always tried to be like the guy that like filled the need that the team had. Right. You know what I mean? Like we had the playmaker in CP, a closer, had a shooter in JJ. We had a big in DeAndre. So then, you know, I always think back to we had like such a good like thing in LA, like we would, you know, run a floppy set, go to JJ. If he didn't have it, he was right back to Chris. I was already stepping up into a step up. I was rolling. If he got doubled, he was to me. I had DJ at the rim, or I had JJ again, or Matt Barnes, or whoever it was in the corner. You know what I mean? We had such a like figured out flow and offense that like everybody just kind of did their thing. And I never really like. It was never really like a. I wish I could do more thing.
That said, I always felt like, you know, the things that made you particularly unique was your ball handling and that your passing was way underrated. And that simply because of Chris, they weren't able to fully utilize those aspects of your game. It wasn't necessarily that there was a struggle. It was just kind of like you got these resources and you can't use them to their fullest extent.
Right.
Did you guys feel that? I mean, did you feel like you were getting the most out of what you had, or did it always feel like, you know what? Like I look at Steph and Clay, for example. Like there's a great fit there because Clay's going to defend. You know, Clay can do a lot of things without the ball. Yeah. That fits so well with Steph. And it's a simple example.
No, I know exactly what you mean. I felt more like I never felt like I was like being held back. I just feel like I can't do it all. He can't do it all. JJ can't do it all. But like together we were like, and I'm not saying this, you know, without having won anything. It's like that's people's thing. It's like, well, you didn't do anything there. We had like good teams and like. People knew we were a good team. Like we, for whatever reason or another, we didn't get it done, but we could still be a good team. We just didn't win. I don't know. I never felt like I knew I needed those guys. You know what I mean? Yeah, I knew I needed those guys the whole time. It's even like when CP went out, like Darren Collison came in and was unbelievable for us.
Yeah.
Jamal Crawford was unbelievable for us. So was JJ. DJ, like guys really, really stepped up. And like that year, I kind of got most of the credit. But there was like big plays late in games where guys were hitting shots, DHO to them, or I'd hit, whatever it was, and winning games for us. And like, so I knew that. Like I'm smart enough to know that, and I've always known that.
Right.
But like I said, I think all the outside just got inside.
I think that's what gets you, I don't want to say in trouble, but I think where there's misperception, because I think you see through a lot of things. And it's funny, when I watch you in an interview or whatever, I can tell instantly when the question is asked. Like, there's like a little smirk, or there's just like a little change, and I know something sarcastic, or that underlying little
jab
is coming. And I think there's a lot of people that don't, because you do it in sort of a straightforward manner, that people don't pick up on it.
No.
And then it becomes interpreted as something else. Right?
Again, just like, what was I saying? I like the whole tweet thing during the DeAndre thing. Part of that's my fault, but part of it's just who I am. And I'm like, especially now, I'm very, very comfortable and willing to live with exactly who I am, because I feel much better when I'm just myself, and like I don't have to like, hold back, or like, I think that's just like, as I've gotten older, that's like where I haven't, like, I don't hold as many grudges. Yeah. And I'm also very much more comfortable being myself. Not that I was uncomfortable, but just like, I don't feel like I have to like hide that, I can just kind of, you say what you say and you deal with the consequences or whatever it is.
By the way, happy birthday.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
3-0, right?
Yeah, 30. Yeah.
How does it feel to be, everybody makes such a big deal about that milestone.
I always, people, you always get like the text, like, how's it feel being 30? And I'm just like, it's like a day.
A day later than 29.
It's like, I don't know. That question always gets me, because but I really do feel like I always hear people say like, man, my 20s, like, or whatever it is. I always feel like I'm at my best at whatever age I am. You know what I mean? Like, because I've applied, things. I hope I'm never like one of those people that like is looking back and being like, man, I wish I was this age again. You know what I mean? Like, really like, being in this moment has always been fun.
No, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. All right. That is the end of part 1 of Conversations with Blake. We will continue. You will hear more about what it means to him to be part of the Pistons franchise, things that he heard from Chauncey Billups, teammate in LA at one point, and more. As always, thanks for listening.